Today's conversation is one I really enjoyed. I sat down with Dan Justus, one of our fusion partners out of Texas, and right away, what stood out to me was how engaging and straightforward he is. He's very clear on why he does this business and who he's doing it for. Dan operates out of a small country town outside of Austin, and despite the size of the market, he's built a very productive real estate business. Over the last year, he's closed more than 15 million in volume, and he's currently in a place where most people would say there's not enough opportunity here. What makes this conversation interesting isn't just the numbers, it's how he's doing it. We talked about relationships versus transactions, about why Dan left the corporate world and why he gravitated towards real estate, and why helping people is what actually drives results. He's a family man, he's faith-driven, and he's very focused on his legacy. During the conversation, we dug into some real challenges: market uncertainty, motivation on the days you don't feel like showing up, the tension between scalable systems and staying genuinely connected to your community. Dan was very honest about what's hard, what he resists, and what he's had to do to push through, especially when it comes to consistent outreach and events. One of the core themes of this episode is sphere of influence, why it works, why it compounds, and why, especially in markets like Dan's, becoming truly embedded in your community can change everything. We talked about events, service, visibility, and how doing good locally creates momentum that no lead source can replace. This isn't a polished success story. It's a real conversation about building a real business with intention, patience, and consistency. If you're an agent who wants to grow without burning out, that cares about people as much as production, and who's thinking long-term instead of chasing the next quick win, I think you'll get a lot out of this conversation. Let's get into it. So we're here today with one of our partners at Fusion, Dan Justus, who's out of Texas. As they say, everything's big in Texas. So
everything's big except for the town that I live in. It's about
okay.
1,200 people in the town, in the surrounding
Wow.
area, about 12,000. So in the hill country, right between San Antonio and Austin.
That's great. Do you get to Austin very much, or?
As little as I have to. I don't. I grew up in Phoenix area.
Yep.
At college, my goal was to live in high rises in all the big cities. I did a lot of that.
So how did you end up there?
Yeah, I didn't just throw a dart or anything. I actually met my wife online.
Okay.
She lived here, and so there's a long
Okay.
story behind that. But that's I ended up.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations
Yeah.
on that. It sounds like you found a great woman and then a great new lifestyle to live. Last year, you did, in the last 12 months actually, you did 23, 24 transactions, almost 15 million in volume in a town that's 1,200 people.
Right.
That's a lot of business.
Part of it's my nature. I do this mainly because I like helping people. I can't see you starting Vision being very selfish, or Fusion being selfish. I was in the corporate world for several years. I owned my own business for several years, and then when I sold it, I've always bought and sold real estate. And I just educated myself as I did it. But I found myself helping friends and family through the process because I had done so many transactions. So when I sold my business, I decided I'm going to do what I love to do. And I really didn't realize how much I loved it until I started doing it. For me, it's not the transaction that I love, it's the people. I hear you talk about it a lot in your coaching sessions. I take this to heart. And one thing that you say quite often is don't focus on that dollar amount.
Hmm.
It's the relationship. And to me,
Yep.
that is so, so true. And I'm blessed that that's just my nature anyway, right? But
Yep.
there's times, I mean, I think it's Zig Ziglar that said money's not everything, but it's right next to oxygen. So money is important. I can't lie to you and say I don't look at
Yeah.
that, but it's not my driving force, if you will.
Yeah. I actually saw him in person, Zig Ziglar.
I'm probably a little older than you. I've seen him twice.
Have you?
Yeah.
I doubt you're older than me. You look way younger than what I know I am. Um, but let's dive into your business a little bit. So one of the things is that you're just for everybody to know, and I think this is important. You're a spiritual man
Yes.
and you're a family man. Those are the two things that come first
Mhm.
in your life, and you have a real desire to leave a legacy. You want to actually have something count for you being here, and I applaud that.
Yeah.
That's your why, or what we call here at Fusion your due north, and we really have to know what that is because to me that's the compass. The due north is what I'm doing, the activities that I'm doing today, is that consistent with the direction that I want to go? And if it's not, then you have to adjust it if you're a person who's actually trying to get to what someone would claim their due north is. How old is
Right.
your son?
He's 28.
He's 28. Is he in the business right now?
He is. He's been in it for 3 years, and I'm actually been talking to Brock about bringing him in on this year. So we're ready to get him rolling. So
Yeah. So for those who are listening, Brock is one of our partnership executive advisors that Dan works with. Um, and so he's 28. He's had his license for 3 years. So how big do we need to help you, and how big do you need to get your business to be to realize the vision that you have for yourself and for your family?
for me, I have a 5 year timeline,
Okay.
and I the goals that I had set back then, I probably will reach those goals way ahead of time. So
Okay.
I may be modifying
So,
those.
so what were those goals?
2 million net every year. So
Okay. We
I'm
have to do about 2.5 million roughly.
right.
Now, is that before you're paying an assistant or
That's
um
my net. So that's after I
that's
pay Fusion. That's
net
after I
net?
pay
And
my
so how
broker.
much, what
Yeah.
is the volume that you see that you have to sell?
My average transaction is about 650. So
Okay. For you, you have this goal. What do you think are, and where we are, we still have a distance to go to get there. What are the impediments that you see to you achieving this goal, or are there? Because you feel pretty confident that you're already on your way to get there.
yeah, I mean, the roadblocks obviously are some uncontrollable.
Yep.
I thought last year was should have been my worst year. It was my best year, just because the economy, interest rates, all the stuff that everyone's
Yep.
talking. It turned out to
What do
be
you think? What do you think made it one of the best years for you?
honestly, and this is not blowing smoke. This is just the systems that Fusion has developed for me, and keeping in constant contact with my sphere of influence.
Yep.
Um, I was a Zillow guy before I met Fusion. I still do a little
Oh,
bit of Zillow, and I
okay.
know that's maybe a four-letter word, but I have
Yep.
a take on that, so I'll get into that later. But
Yeah.
um, so, but so I'll give you an example. So with Zillow, at a very big Zillow lead, maybe 10% I convert into a closing, right?
Out
Yeah,
of Zillow, you convert 10%.
and that's
That's
high.
that's
That's really
that's
high.
outrageously high.
We're in the top 1% of Zillow Premier, right? So,
Okay.
and part of it's what we do here, right? So I had Zillow, but what Fusion taught me is how important your sphere of influence is. And for me, it turned a job into something where I get to touch base with people that I love and like and hang out with, and it gave me a purpose to call them. And
Yep.
just to text them and say, "Hey, how you doing?" And that always generates a conversation. And it doesn't always have to be about real estate. In fact, 90% of the time it's not, but it always leads to that. Not always, but it genuinely
Yeah,
leads.
that's the interesting thing that, a lot of people who, you go to the Tom Ferries and or the Mike Ferries or some of these other things and you got to call and they've got scripts for, have you seen the latest prices and it's all business. And one of the things with the fusion agents, like I want everyone to reach out and say hi, but ask about the kids' soccer team, ask them, you know, how someone's doing with, whatever issues that they're having, just being a friend. And because of the amount of contact that we're doing, it always comes up, hey, I'm getting your stuff. And then that opens the door. Great. Is there anything you need from me? You need me to run you some comps on anything? Like if you
Yeah,
want an estimate about it, happy to do it. And then that starts to get things to flow. And I think, ideally that should make a, a lot funner to do business. It's just, just get out there and make friends and serve people and the rest will take care of itself. But you still have to get out there and you got to be in front of people for the opportunities to happen for sure.
100%. And I'd be lying to you if I didn't say that there weren't days that I didn't feel like getting up. And to be honest, there's days that I don't do it, right? Apple made a great thing where you could send your text out and you could time it, you can schedule it, right? So when I get up
Right.
first thing in the morning, I get put several texts together and I time them and send them out, and then I go out my day. I don't sit at a desk. That's not my personality. I don't like being here.
Yep.
So
When you go out, what is it that you're doing? Where are you
I'm
going?
just in the community.
Yep.
I may be looking at houses. If I don't have nothing else to do, I'll go look at houses.
Okay.
I'm in my community all the time.
Yep.
Just yeah, it's some of the steep stuff that Fusion teaches us to do the drop bys, and that's what I do. It's just it's fun for me, and the hardest part really is doing it the first time or the first couple times, because then once you get comfortable doing it, it's whether that be a text or a phone call, and you understand that it's not texting saying, "Hey, do you want to buy or sell your house?" It's, "Hey, how you doing?" Or when you get them on the phone,
Right.
it's
It's such a difference.
it really, yeah,
It's
and
such a
it's exciting
difference.
to get you motivated because
Yeah.
it's genuine.
Yeah. Yeah. Versus calling up and being in a business mode all the time. To me, I think that's tiring for the people that we're dealing with. And we want to create a community of people that seek us as a resource versus us hammering them to do something. And that's not the perception. And I think the long-term play obviously is when you're setting it up where people are saying, gosh, I got to sell my house. Oh, Dan, let's just call Dan. And because you're top of mind. And so for us to get to this 2 million net, we've got to really look at what our inputs are and scale what those inputs are. And one of the things that I think is really interesting, and we should talk about it, is you're in a town of 1,200 people. That is a small town. Like, for example, how many dry cleaners are in your town?
Believe it or not, we do have one.
Okay,
We have
so
one
but
drop,
you have one. So
but they ship it out.
everybody,
They ship it out. It's just you drop it off, they ship it out, and you get it three
yeah,
days, right?
3 days, 3 days later. And how many restaurants you think are in there?
So we're a tourist town, so it's a
Okay.
weekend. So we actually have probably 10 restaurants, not include, well, we only
Okay.
have one fast food, Dairy Queen. So
Now, have you gone to the title company and pulled up all of the owner occupied properties in your town? Do you know how many there are?
I have not. No, I hadn't even thought to do that, but that's something I'll probably write down.
Okay, so let's kind of develop a plan here. This would cost a little bit of money in the initial investment of marketing to get it going.
Mhm.
But I really think that we could absolutely have you own this town, Dan, because you've already got a good head start with the SOI that you have. By the way, how many all-in SOI do we have in your SOI right
I
now?
think it's 470,
Okay. And you've been with us how long?
year and a half.
Year and a half. Do you know how long, what the average length of time someone owns a home in your town?
I've seen stats of 3.5 years, but I have a hard time believing that. It
Yeah,
seems
that seems really low. The
that is,
reason it's interesting is Austin's one of the lowest. It's about 7.5 years.
okay.
And I think that's maybe because it's more high tech and people are moving there and changing jobs, whatever the case may be. But if you go into San Francisco, it's closer to 18 or 20 years. The nation's average is about 10 years, 10 to 12 years, depending with these low interest rates that we've had in 2021 and everybody who refinanced their homes, that slowed down the movement, but over a period of time, it will again pick up. So if we just say every 10 years, it would be very interesting to me. You may only have, if people are couples in their domicile, you may only have 600, 700 homes that are single family homes in the town that you're in. If the goal is to get to 2 million, we get all of the owner occupied. So let's go to the title company and have them pull up every owner occupied single family home in your town. Okay. And then the other thing is let's make sure that we get some data from the county to see what the average rate of turnover is. And it's pretty simple. If you pull all the single family homes and then you do the last two or three sales, you should then be able to do the math, based upon what is the percentage of homes that sold each year. Then you could average those, and that will come up. So if we're able to, on a geographical level, market to an extent that you're able to get 50% to give you an interview. Great. Here's the other thing is signs are great social proof. So the more signs that we get up in a particular area, the more business that you're going to get off those signs. So it becomes a process that those signs are the credibility and also is what then generates leads from potentially people that we don't know. There was a lady by the name of Marge Reed who in 1990 was the number one agent in Sacramento County. And she probably did, I don't know, $50 million in business, which doesn't sound like a lot now, but she killed everybody in the county in the South Placer, El Dorado Hills, if you know the area, the two other
Yeah.
counties. And if you drove through the towns, Fair Oaks Boulevard, Arden Park, um, Carmichael, her signs were everywhere. And some of these properties, she would take listings, they wouldn't sell for a long time, but everyone drove around. And so if you're a seller and everybody's listing with Marge Reed, who's the most likely person to get a call?
Right.
Marge Reed.
Yeah.
If you're a buyer who comes to town and they're driving around and it's Marge Reed that's on every sign, who's most likely going to get those calls?
Colin Mars. Yep.
Right.
Right.
And then you can kind of, the compass saying, hey, I'm working on a listing. We don't have it put together quite yet, but it's got 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, it's got a pool, single level. That's what you're looking for on an acre. Yes. Okay. Would you like to have one of the first shots at it? Yes. Now you've got a waiting buyer for a property that you might be able to represent both sides. And I haven't really had because we've marketed ourselves and built our businesses in major metropolitan areas. But I would be really excited about what we could potentially do in a small town because then the other thing is we can digitally market. It wouldn't be too expensive to digitally market through Meta and through retargeting the entire town. Like you could become really famous in the town, which has its upsides and its downsides. You have to be on your best behavior all the time,
100%.
right? You can't flip anybody off in your bad mood if you're driving or any of those types of things, which I don't expect you would be that type of person. I can't say I'm innocent of that at all
Right.
times. Some other things that we could do is you could go out and interview all of the business owners in that town, and we could put it right on your website and on YouTube. We'll edit it all up for you. You film it, set it up, and then we could, if you want to know the best dry cleaner in town or the only dry cleaner, let's meet the owner. Hey, Tim, come on in. So there's some things that we could really do
Yeah.
that for this tourist town. And the other thing that would be really interesting is the SEO, because it's a small town, we might be able to get some decent SEO, which is almost impossible to do in larger markets because you're competing against the Zillows and the Realtor.coms, which we're not going to be able to beat. Because here's the thing is if you've got 470, which is great, I'm sure some of them are outside the area that
Sure.
you're looking at, but this is one way we could really expand your reach. And if you're in a big town, nobody would know who you are. But in a small town, it's almost like they're definitely going to know you or know somebody who knows you in a town of 1,200 people. My name is James Becker.
James Becker.
I am the founder and CEO of Fusion Growth Partners. I have built from scratch one of the largest mega organizations or teams in the country. We currently have close to 850 top real estate agents that work and partner with my organization. Last year, our agents sold over $7 billion in real estate, producing well over $200 million in gross commissions earned. Hope you enjoy what we're going to share. So let's talk about, there's a direct correlation between the amount of sphere of influence. And our definition of a sphere of influence is someone that lives in an area that you service, you've met them more than twice, and you have some connection to them that is just beyond meeting them on a chance circumstance or an open house. Like they might go to the gym that you go to, or they go to the church that you go to, or they're on your their parents of some of the friends of your kids, or on a team, or whatever the case may be, direct neighbors. You've met them more than once or twice, and you've got a good group of those people. How do we expand that larger? Because the larger that group is, the more business is going to happen inside that particular group.
Yeah.
So, what are the things that you're doing to expand your SOI right now?
One of the most recent things that I did is I did an event. And now
Yeah.
I'm so because I think I added 16 people to my SOI, and it was people that most of them I already knew. In fact, I knew all of them.
Right.
I knew them all, but I
Yep.
just didn't know they weren't part of my SOI or whatever. I had invited them, I personally invited them to these events. I didn't even use Fusion for the invite part. So now I'm excited because we went through all that and how next time, and I've got the second one planned and we're gonna roll on
Well,
that.
tell me about the event that you did.
So the one that I did, my wife works for it's basically a law firm that it's nonprofit law firm. I'll just put it that way. So
Okay.
they were doing a fundraising event, and I just grabbed people that I know to go and do this fundraiser, and it was very, very popular. I have people wanting to do it next year, and so that's what I did on this one. But I
Right.
did that as my event. So
What
um,
what was the cause that they were raising money for?
they fight. religious liberties. So,
Okay.
for example, the coach that prayed on the field that got fired and went all the way to the Supreme Court,
Yep.
that was their case. And so,
Right.
um,
So they protect free speech and the
exactly,
Bill of
exactly.
Rights and those types of things. Great. So that's awesome. I think that's a wonderful cause that you can continue to work on. One of the other things that I find with events that's really helpful is if there's something that is near and dear to your heart, and it could be a family that's in need. It could be a cause that you have in need, but it really needs to be a local thing. And so let's talk about events because I've done a lot of business through events, and I had a situation where my brother, who lives relatively close to me, lives in a neighborhood, and everybody in this neighborhood's really close friends. It's really a kind of a neat deal in Wilton, California. And this one couple had a 4-year-old boy who had flu symptoms and wasn't getting better and took him to the doctor a couple of times. And eventually they said, we're going to drive down to Stanford, which is about a 2-hour drive from where they were at. They got down there and he started getting sicker and they diagnosed him where the other places in Sacramento didn't within an hour that he had leukemia. He never left the hospital. He died the next day. Everybody kind of rallied around these people and they want to create a foundation to help other kids. I was not involved I don't know if you've ever had any of these experiences, but I felt shameful that I wasn't pitching in, and it became uncomfortable enough that I kind of looked at myself in the mirror and I said, okay, all right, there's something talking to me that I need to do something different. I ended up getting involved with this group, and the way I started is I put on an event. I was running a mortgage company at the time, and I put on an art auction. And yes, I wouldn't do this again, but it was one of the highlights of my life where we got all of these artists locally, and we auctioned off their stuff and we split the proceeds. So the artist got half of it, and the foundation got half of it. And dealing with artists is an interesting experience to say the least. But we were able to raise about $30,000 that night, and that
Wow.
was in 2010, I think. And people really got involved. And then, I'm meeting people who wanted to. They heard about it, they wanted to volunteer, and so I'm developing these friends with people who wanted to volunteer and to help. And then I'm meeting these artists and all these types of things. And my sphere of influence grew significantly. The good feelings I got out of what I was doing was so motivational. I did another event a year later called Rockin' for Braden. I did I'll never do this again. We had a singles auction. That was the most that was the most awkward, horrible experience.
It
But we
sounds good
ended
on
up.
paper.
It sounds good on paper, right? In real life, when you put somebody up there and nobody's bidding, it's
Ah,
it's 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 not a good feeling. But we raised I don't know, we raised probably 10, $15,000 that night. But there's different things. And so, for real estate agents that like to be creative, this is where you can kind of put in some creativity. And so in these events, Dan, so to get back to you, thank you for taking the time to listen to all of that. If you find somebody in town that needs the help or whatever the case may be, um,
let me
you
run to you the one that I have in mind. There was a new business in town just opened up. It's it's for pickleball, but it's an indoor pickleball. and that's
Yep.
on fire nowadays. It may be trendy, but whatever. And it's for all ages, right? And so
Yep.
I've already talked to the owners. They love the idea. I've partnered with a financial advisor and a remodel guy that focuses on remodeling homes, getting them ready to sell.
Yep.
And we're at the beginning stages of it, but we want to do an event that Fusion advertises for us, just to
Yep.
get the local. And because it's such a small community, I think that it may be pretty successful. But what's your thoughts on that?
Well, what is the event? Is it a pickleball tournament?
It's really introducing the business to the community is what my thought was, is just letting them know it's here and what it's about and come play. And yeah, so I mean it's pretty good size so for the community.
Okay. So I think you could do something like that, but I would tie that to benefiting somebody who has a need in the community. And so you could
No, I
have the
like that.
space and you could do a tournament that would be for beginners and maybe in intermediate people, advanced people are going to be playing. So, you would say, okay, we're going to have some brackets, we want you to sign on. And then there's going to be, food and music, right? So it shouldn't be a serious tournament like you're playing rock and roll music,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
whole time or,
yeah,
country
yeah,
music, whatever the flavor of the community is. And but that people are coming to donate or participate in taking care of something that pulls on someone's heartstrings.
yeah.
So the
Okay.
business isn't going to pull on anyone's heartstrings.
No, I like
And
that. I like that. The business is
it,
just kind of the side product.
the business is the side product. And then once you get that, then you can go out and you can go to local businesses and you can, give them some free tickets to give away or and say, will you participate? And when you're raising money, you can do silent auctions or live auctions. They're a lot of fun. For example, if there's somebody in your town that has let's say a condo in Austin, downtown Austin,
Mhm.
right in where all the music and the food is, right?
Yeah,
They could get, auction off a weekend at their place, right? And so they could donate that. So you can ask people, hey, can you donate? And this is a way for you to cold call without talking about real estate at all,
yeah.
saying, I'm doing this event and I'm just wondering, is there something that you can contribute? We'd love for you to come. And then this is a way for expanding that thing, but you're not even talking about real estate. But then through that interaction, they are becoming someone that you have a connection to, that you've talked to a couple of times, and then they're in that sphere of influence. And they're going to remember you because you're the guy that was trying to take care of and solve an issue for, a group of people.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I wrote down several notes there, just getting ideas. So that's good. How did you capture? Did you have a sign-in sheet, or did you do that all RSVP? You get RSVP when you're
No,
at.
I just invited people to come that I knew in my sphere of influence. And
Okay.
then, I went around and talked to people and
Yeah.
that was it. It's so funny because the the actual value of having the event is not that they come, Dan, is that you invited them to come.
Mm.
And there is a sense of reciprocity that is built in. So I had a lot of people when I do these events, they'd say, oh, I'm so sorry we can't come. We really want to come, but we can't come. But we're thinking about listing our house, you know.
Yeah.
I go, well, you know,
Yeah.
that will
I like
make up
that too.
for it. So, but again, this is, you just have to intertwine yourself in this community and if you're actually doing good for somebody and you're helping somebody and you're putting yourself out there, it all comes back.
I like that.
Dan,
So
thank you for taking time with me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And
Thank you for having me.
and if you ever need anything, feel free to contact me, and I'll do whatever I can to help you.
Very good. Thank you. Appreciate it.